Hey sightseers, Sightseeing Sally here. I'm with Meandering Marty. And today we're checking out the original town site of Las Cruces and the original route of El Camino Real. Excuse me, El Camino Real de Tierra Adentro.
What?
That would be Spanish, Marty, for the Royal Road of the Interior.
See, my Spanish is what? Taco, burrito, enchilada, chimichanga. That one is called.
It's okay. I took a little bit of Spanish. I don't think Marty did.
Zero.
It also helped that I looked it up. Anyways, this was a road that ran between, I believe, if I understood correctly, between Mexico City all the way up to Santa Fe, New Mexico. Today, the street here in Las Cruces is known as Mesquite, but underneath the pavement is the dirt that the original road once ran through. To kick things off, we're starting out at Klein Memorial Park. And the reason I picked this as our starting point to explore this historic, the oldest neighborhood in Las Cruces, is because I had read somewhere in this park stands a tree under which the original townsfolk drew lots, or suertes, out of a hat in order to pick the lot where they would establish a home. It was underneath a cottonwood tree, perhaps much like the large tree behind me, where 120 families drew lots, as I said, in order to pick the spot where they would establish their home. As a result of that, the city of Las Cruces was born, built up right in this area. And even though many of those original buildings, those original homes, are no longer standing, there are some really old historic Adobe structures that still make up this neighborhood in Las Cruces. Las Cruces, if you didn't know, stands for the crosses. How Las Cruces got its name is rather interesting. I'll get into that a little bit later. First, I want to show you this placard over here that indicates that we are indeed in the Mesquite Historic District and original town site. The sign goes on further to explain how the Las Esperanzas Incorporated was founded by Consuelo R. Lerma in 1999. Las Esperanzas Incorporated being a grassroots organization dedicated to the preserving of the Mesquite Historic District and original town site. Before moving on from the park, I just want to point out this bow tie in the tree that I had pointed to you earlier. It's actually in loving memory of a counselor, Miguel G. Silva, who was a respected member of the community. He was heavily involved with, I believe, some of the restoration efforts down here. And in his honor, they've named this tree Miguel's Tree. Whether this tree is the very same tree where the 120 families drew their suertes, I don't know. But regardless, today it's known as Miguel's Tree. Moving on, across the street from the park, you'll find what is known as La Nueva Casita. It's a beautifully painted cafe and restaurant. And next door to that is the Bean on Mesquite, a coffee shop. I think I could go for a beverage. What do you think, sightseers? Should we go on inside? Now that I'm properly beveraged, I thought I would talk a little bit about how Las Cruces.
Don't you mean now that you properly spilled everywhere?
I can't even argue that because it's right there on film, sightseers. leave it to me to make a mess, which, if you know anything about me and Marty, well...
No, you're always spilling crap. You're like a 2-year-old walking around with a glass of milk.
I should really wear a bib when I'm eating or drinking something, because now I've got coffee stains all down the side of my shirt.
Seriously, we've had that discussion about her wearing a bib.
Not to detract from Las Cruces, but now you know what really happened, sightseers. Moving on, I'm going to show you this lovely building here. Instead of talking about what I was originally going to talk about, we'll save that for later on. Just wanted to point out the beautiful archway that's here, this front window that's arched, and you've got the gated entryway here that's also arched, and then this lovely patio. It looks like it's probably some sort of restaurant, cafe, or was at one point. Perhaps it was a residence converted, or maybe they're converting it into a residence. I don't know, but you got an old wishing well over here, and it is for sale, being sold as commercial real estate. And then you can see here on the corner is an old residence made of Adobe. You'll notice that many of the homes in the Mesquite district are brightly painted, some of them with beautiful murals painted on the side. This one in particular was done in memory of Gloria Munoz. According to the sign, it's called the Native Maiden, and I'll read it to you. Humanity is multicolored with infinite hues. Lisa inherited her red hair from Pablo Melendres, founder of Las Cruces, and her resilience and determination from her indigenous great-grandmother, Doña Mammy Kelsey Navarez, who was forced to attend Carlisle Indian Industrial School to kill the Indian and save the woman. And there you have the neighborhood watch system in full force today. Oh, there's a cat too, looking to see what's going on. I wonder what Leo would say. I'm sure if we got him out here, there'd be a lot of between the two. We're now up over at St. Joseph's Cemetery, which is still part of the Mesquite Historic District. The reason I brought you up over here is because one of the things that they did when the town site was originally established was to create a cemetery. I also thought it would be the perfect place to talk about how Las Cruces got its name. Prior to it being settled, this area was known for being targeted by the Apaches. Evidently, there was one such attack that was so brutal it left behind only one survivor. That survivor told a tale of the mourners erecting a garden of crosses in honor of those who didn't survive the attack, hence Las Cruces as the name. However, don't quote me on that. Historical documentation to back that up is scarce, and some scholars point to an 1847 account where it was noted that there was a single solitary cross on the Chihuahua Trail.
Chihuahua Trail? Don't you mean El Camino Real?
Yes, they're one and the same. Apparently, back in the day, it was known as the Chihuahua Trail, and then somewhere along the lines, we named it El Camino Real. Getting back to the name, others simply contend that the name Las Cruces came from the fact that where they established the town site was just simply a crossroads. Speaking of crossroads, I'm now over at Jardín de Mesquite, a little corner park at the crossroads of Spruce and Tornillo. And what's significant about this park is that they've got this mural painted alongside this building talking about different important events in the history of Las Cruces and the Mesquite Historic District. For instance, this first tile talks about who the natives of the Mesquite area were. Long before the original town site was created, the Puro Manso Tiwa Pueblo occupied this area. Along with them, the Apache and Comanche tribes frequently migrated to this area. Then in 1849, Don Pablo Melendres, the mayor of Doña Ana, wanted to alleviate overcrowding. He asked Lieutenant Bennett Sackett to plat a new town to the south. That, of course, resulted in what is now known as Las Cruces and the historic Mesquite district. The original plat had 84 blocks, each consisting of 4 lots, plus there was 2 for a cemetery and a plaza church. Names were pulled from a hat in a public drawing over in the park where we started. Or at least that is where they believe that event occurred. Then this tile over here talks about or depicts St. Genevieve's Catholic Church, which according to this was from 1859 to 1967. Then you got this tile here that depicts the Mesquite district in the 20s, where you've got neighborhood friends pausing in front of an entrance to houses and shops called a zagan. Or is it zagan? You'll have to forgive me, sightseers. My Spanish is quite rusty. It's been many years since I last took it. Not to mention I got that thick, scotty accent. This tile depicts the Loreto Academy, which ran from 1870 until 1967, and it was located at Loman Avenue and South Main Street. Apparently, it was a Catholic school for girls, along with hosting other activities for the neighborhood. Then you've got this part of the mural that talks about the ethnic and cultural diversity. The Mesquite area has a long and mixed history of different cultures and people coming together in the community. Which is what America's all about, right? The second to last tile shows what downtown in the 1950s looked like. And then in this final tile, they talk about how urban renewal literally destroyed hundreds of homes and buildings in the historic Mesquite district. Because I guess from what I read online, they had this idea that the best way to develop Las Cruces was to tear down all these old historic buildings and replace them with brand new. Now, through the efforts of Las Esperanzas, which I had mentioned earlier on in the video, they're taking steps to preserve the history that's here. You know, according to what I read, there's over 713 buildings that are within this historic district. That's only about half of what was here originally when they went through and did that urban development. They had tore down a lot of buildings. You can see from here that I'm at the corner of Mesquite and Pinion. I thought since we are on the street that the neighborhood is named after, that I would take a walk down it, and then Marty's gonna follow along in the truck and we're gonna point out various historic points of interest.
Absolutely.
Coming up, the first stop that you can see is the gallery at 925 Mesquite. It is an art gallery that happens to be open today. Generally speaking, with the exception of that house over there, which is made out of brick, the homes in this neighborhood still maintain the traditional style of Adobe. Oh, look at that old car. If I'm not mistaken, that's an old Wagoneer. What do you know about old Wagoneers, Marty?
The Jeep Wagoneer?
Yeah.
People seem to like them, but I never got into collecting them or liking them, but it's a Jeep thing, I guess.
There you go. You got to hear it right from the horse's mouth. By the way, I just want to point out at what used to be an old gas station is now the site of a place called Twisted Wrenches. Now, if you look across the street, going down North Mesquite, you're going to see this group of buildings here. While I can't say for certain what this corner building used to be, to me, it appears it may have been some sort of corner grocery store. But what I can tell you, by looking at the side of this building here, they used to fix flats, that this used to be Silva's tire, and this is where the paint gets really too faded. But obviously, it was some sort of auto repair shop. And then, if you look directly across the street, wait for the car to go by, we've got what used to be the home of Clarabelle Williams. Clarabelle, if you didn't know, was the first African American to graduate from the New Mexico College of Agriculture and Mechanic Arts. As you can see, they've got several statues sitting out here. You've got the buffalo, you've got a Native American chief here, and then what looks like to be a very well antlered type of deer. And then of course you have the white tiger over there. Another interesting fact about Clarabelle Williams is that she went on to become an educator and later had 3 sons who are all doctors. Now here's a historic property that's registered as a cultural property for the state of New Mexico. Known as Hacienda Alvarez, it was built roughly about the 1880s by Narcisco Alvarez, who happened to be one of the city jailers and a road supervisor. I'm over in front of what is Royal Road Cannabis Company. And as you can see, they have this wonderful mural painted alongside their building. Along the top it says, "The old adage that a woman's work is never done remains true today regardless of class, color, culture, or creed." And then you can see over here they have a depiction of the Adelitos. They were young girls, as young as 14, who fought alongside grown men and tended to their needs during the Mexican Revolution. And then there's a depiction of Clarissa Barton, one of Sojourner Truth, and this last one is a Deteste, an extremely capable Apache warrior known for her beauty, which only added to her allure. Now, interestingly enough, I found out by talking to the current owner of this building that the woman that owned it previously was, I guess, known for doing prayers for people. That she had a wall dedicated inside her home where she put up pictures of the people that people had come and asked her to do prayers for. Well, she had a wall in there where she placed all them prayer requests. Apparently this woman was well known. I mean, everybody came here if they had somebody that they wanted prayed for. Over at the corner of East Hadley and Mesquite, you'll find the Sunshine Grocery and Grill, another well-known landmark within the Mesquite Historic District. And then over here, we've got a Meandering Marty, along with our pups, Mocha and Lil Leo. I'm now up over at the corner of North Mesquite and East Las Cruces Avenue. It is here that you'll find this set of murals that have been painted. It's my understanding that the majority of these murals, if not all of them, have been financed by a gentleman here that lives here. He's 80-some years old. He's written a book. His name escapes me right now. If I remember, I'll pop it up on the screen. This particular set of murals recognizes the Apaches. This one here is of Nana, who was married to Geronimo's sister. And then you've got Lozen, who was a woman warrior, seer, and healer, whose mystique was well earned and widespread. The sun's starting to get pretty low in the sky. The battery on my phone is starting to die. So in all reality, I'm gonna have to wrap this up here real quickly. But before I go, I need to show you the fact that they've got Geronimo here painted on the side of the building and Chief Victorio over here. According to this, America's most famous Native American warrior remains imprisoned at Fort Sill after 136 years. After reading this, it sounds like to me his remains are still at the fort, and his wishes were to be buried at the headwaters of the Gila. And according to the Native American Graves Protection and Repatriation Act, direct descendants can have his remains reburied somewhere else. Apparently there must be some controversy because it says here at the bottom, Fort Sill Apaches should not continue to oppose repatriation and leave Geronimo imprisoned in Oklahoma against his stated desires. Before I go, there's one more thing I want to mention. As I've been walking around this neighborhood, talking to some of the folks that are from here. There's a lot of history here, some of which people, I guess, don't desire to have to be discussed. They'd rather leave it forgotten in the past. But the other thing I want to mention is that besides that, there are a lot of great people in this neighborhood, and I really enjoyed coming out here and touring a part of it. Obviously, we didn't see half of what's here because, like I said, there's over 715 buildings that make up this historic district, and we've only touched upon a few of them. As you can see, we've now ended up right back where we started, which I think is a fitting place to bid you all adieu. Until next time.